There it goes. Hello and welcome to the movieboozer.com virtual pub. My name is Bill Leon, and Bill Arsenault has joined me today.
Hey.
Everybody else is absent, sick or working or whatever, so it's the Bill show today.
Yeah, I feel like we should have a theme song whenever this happens.
Oh, yeah, we should totally do that.
Like, I don't know, we should do a remix of the Mr. Bill skit from SNL. Where,
wasn't that an actual show? Didn't that get spin off into an actual half-hour show?
I think you're right. I think it did. But we could start. The song could start off with him going, "Oh no," and then it can get into a rock song or something, you know. So I don't know. We'll figure that out down the line if this ends up happening more often than not.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ron Rico.
As always.
You can't read the label, but this shit is $14 for a handle. So,
damn.
Yep, it tastes like shit, but you know,
but it does the trick.
It gets you drunk, as Sam Jackson would say.
It'll get you drunk. You'll be fucking fat girls in no time. You might even fight a fool or two. Bitch. Notice I didn't say the N-word because I don't want to get in trouble like Hulk Hogan.
Oh, right. I heard. Did you hear the audio of that?
No, I didn't. I know the sex tape is actually a pretty old one, isn't it? Like, didn't the news break of that for like a few years ago when Bubba the Love Sponge released it?
I think so, yeah.
It's a really weird case because like Hulk Hogan in the video was having sex with Bubba's ex-wife, and Bubba was there in the other room, coming in and out like, "Hey, Hulk, what's going on? You like my ex-wife?" So it's like this really weird relationship between these two guys. Hulk's a swinger. Hey, he's a fucking freak. And apparently he's a racist and a homophobe too, supposedly.
I'll never be able to watch No Holds Barred the same again.
Well, you know, I have the WWE Network, and right now the WWE is scrubbing their website of any mention of Hulk Hogan right now because they know that would bring him bad press. But the thing is, there are some shows on the WWE Network itself on my Roku that I can watch, and Hogan is still on there. So they can't completely erase him. It's kind of like Chris Benoit. They can't completely erase Chris Benoit. You know,
they shouldn't. Like, I don't understand. Like, that's the thing and this gets into a whole, which is a big topic of conversation right now, is like a celebrity and their artistic persona versus their personal life. And, you know, like, I think a lot of people have the theory that, like, most famous people are just awful people and we don't know about it.
I think most celebrities are just people.
Yeah. I think that's true.
I say awful shit when I'm not in public all the time. You know, I'm not saying I say racist things. I certainly do not.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know the context of I haven't heard the actual audio from Hulk Hogan's thing, but certainly I can understand this at this particular time with the Black Lives Matter movement and the Confederate flag crap. This isn't exactly the best time for this kind of controversy to be popping up.
Even just beyond race, just like sort of what this country's going through right now with gay marriage and transgender equality. Yeah. Like, yeah, just everybody being equal to each other is a big thing right now. And I mean, it should be that way. It's kind of astounding that it took this long for the whole world to sort of get behind it, but
yeah, you know. But yeah, he's still on the WWE Network if you know where to look, as is Chris Benoit. But it's not like they're mentioning them prominently or anything. It's just if you watch an old pay-per-view, that they just happen to be on it, you know. So, but that's a whole other topic of.
I still like both of those guys. I'd still watch old matches with them and stuff.
This right here is a sore spot for me because I was a huge Benoit fan. You know, like I cried when he won the world title at WrestleMania 20 and everything. I was really behind him. And when he did what he did, you know, that really, like, I pretty much just cut off all, you know, I still have an action figure of his, and I don't even look at it anymore, you know. I'm
wow, did they recall those? Do they still make those?
No, they don't still make those toys. They recall them, but mine's not even in its package. I actually played with mine for a while.
Right.
But that was when I was younger. But I can't watch a Benoit pay-per-view anymore. I can't watch even if I was just to skip over his match. I can't watch it. It's gotten that bad. Hulk Hogan I could probably still watch because he only said some stupid things. I mean, that's like Mel Gibson level stupid, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Hulk Hogan is necessarily a racist. I just think he's an idiot for having done that.
Mel Gibson's not the best comparison because he might actually be racist.
Mel might actually be racist, but Mel has a history of anger management and alcoholism, so I think that fueled that kind of talk from him. So he probably wasn't in the best mind of judgment when he said those things. And Hulk Hogan, however, I think, from what I understand, according to the transcripts, was in the best mind when he was having sex, right? So
that's not the best mind. You definitely say.
Well, yeah, but your mind is a little more heightened at that point, isn't it?
Maybe, in fact, maybe the girl he was banging was racist, and he was just saying that to get her off or to make her like him more.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. That is sometimes you say stuff to girls during sex that you don't mean. It just comes out. You know?
Yeah, baby, the Holocaust didn't happen. Now work the shaft.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah, it's become painfully obvious that we're working very off the cuff today.
Well, we have to. We got to somehow fill in this time. I mean,
yeah.
For one thing, we really don't want to get to the main topic of discussion because the main topic of discussion is such a.
Well, I'm actually very eager to talk about this.
Well, but it's like
to relive it. To relive it is a different story.
Yeah, okay. I should rephrase it. To relive the experience of watching this Adam Sandler movie is, and we'll get into it. But I mean, oh God, like
you want to talk about John Schnepp first, the Superman documentary.
Oh yeah, let's get into that. The documentary, "The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened."
Yeah, I followed this from its genesis on Kickstarter, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had heard about this movie mainly from Kevin Smith talking about it on his Evening With special. And obviously, just the idea of Tim Burton making a Superman movie, that's fascinating.
It really is. And a lot of people kind of, some people, when they hear that combination, they shake their heads. Okay, it worked with Batman because Batman's a little more gothic. But Superman, I don't know. But if you look over the course of Tim Burton's career, and they do a good job of highlighting this in the documentary, Tim has always taken on characters that are very much loners.
I can name 3 of his films that are very bright, colorful, and far from gothic.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is his first film. So I guess some people would probably be like, "Oh, that was his first film. He wasn't in his zone yet." Mars Attacks.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Mars Attacks, yeah.
Mars Attacks has a dark edge to it, but it's not gothic. It doesn't have that Tim Burton-ish look to it.
The movie more or less is like his version of a spoof movie. It's not really.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't actually fit the Tim Burton catalog, really.
Well, as a follow-up to Ed Wood, I think it works very well.
Maybe. Okay, I can see that.
It was his follow-up to Ed Wood, and it is essentially a big-budget Ed Wood movie. In a way.
In a way. But what I was getting at was he's very much done characters that are similar to Superman. Superman, there's no one like him on Earth. He's the only person of his kind, so he's very much alone. And Tim Burton has done movies featuring outcasts all over his catalog, like Ed Wood, like Pee-wee, like Beetlejuice.
The plight you just described pretty much sums up Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands, exactly. There you go. That's probably the best example right there of the loner Tim Burton type character, the outcast. Because that's literally the plot of Edward Scissorhands, is him trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, that's kind of also the plot of Man of Steel to some degree. On a very superficial level, it is. It's not as deep about it, but it's. Mm-hmm. I still like Man of Steel, but that particular theme isn't, they just kind of talk about it. They don't really get deep into it, I say. But There was a lot revealed in this documentary that I didn't know about. Like seriously, I was really fascinated with the stuff they came up with. Like in terms of the drawings, of characters, the set designs they had in mind, the versions of Brainiac they wanted to do, the Skull ship I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool production design elements that they showed off, and actually old footage of like Nick Cage being suited up and like that.
Oh yeah,
a lot of the old footage was just them trying to get the suit right, but if I remember correctly, there was some old like model set footage and stuff, right?
I think so, yeah. And there was within that footage of Nick Cage putting on the suit, he was also kind of goofing off a little bit. But he was also trying to get insight into the character because Tim Burton was right there, and actors like to get direction from directors no matter what.
Yeah.
So he's like standing there, and he's like, "Yeah, my father was a scientist, and my mother was a Kryptonian diplomat." And he's trying to get into the character despite the fact that he's not actually shooting the movie right now.
The funny thing about the old Nick Cage footage, and this might just be me, I might be picking up on something that may or may not be there, but he mentions the innocence of a child a few times.
Oh yeah, he says like about the cape. It's something for a baby, like a baby.
A baby blanket. Yeah, he says that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is he talking about?
And he wraps it around himself as if it's like a comfort blanket, And I thought that was funny, like ridiculous Nick Cage type stuff, but at the same time, I thought that could actually be expressed rather well on screen, and that would be interesting to do that. Like that. That's something to pull. That's the kind of shit that comes out of pre-production. You know what I mean? That only comes out of pre-production, like when the ideas are still percolating. And like I've had conversations with a good friend of mine who's a screenwriter or an aspiring screenwriter, and we've talked many times about possible ideas for movies. And like, I'm working on the script, Bill, and what do you think if I did this, or what do you think if I did that? And I'd give him my opinions and everything, and we'd come up with the craziest ideas. Like we came up with an entire movie. We laid out an entire movie set during Christmas that is probably the most shocking and controversial thing that's ever come out of my head. And I don't think we could ever commit it to screen without being lynched. By people, by moviegoers, but I'm
intrigued. I'm tempted.
I'll tell it to you after the cast, but because I actually told some movie programmers in town who took me out to dinner about this idea. Like we were just shooting the breeze, I was like, "Hey, I had this idea for a movie once," and I told them the entire story, and I think they looked at me funny afterwards, like, "Why did he tell us that I'm never going to look at him the same way again." And I felt kind of embarrassed that I did that. So now I'm kind of more careful about it. But what I'm getting at is usually during pre-production or the writing process is when these really ridiculous ideas come out that end up becoming kind of brilliant. And throughout this documentary, that's literally all that is being expressed, because that was the highest form of production the movie got, was pre-production. And the stuff that Nick Cage comes up with, like it's like a security blanket, and shit like that. I mean,
the innocent child.
It's like the innocent. It's like he's just bumbling to himself like a crazy person on the
it is. It does kind of come off like that in some of that footage.
But that's Nick Cage. I mean,
I will say, like, and this is not. I completely loved this movie. I commend the hell out of John Schnepp. Like this took 2 years of work, and it clearly was a big passion project. I wish they could have gotten an interview with Nick Cage. I really
that would have been brilliant. Yeah. Especially since Nick Cage named one of his kids Kal-El, didn't he?
From what I understand, he's doing Left Behind movies. Why couldn't he do this? Like, if he's hurting for money so bad, like, I mean. Yeah, like, I know, I don't blame the movie. I just really wished that they would have gotten him.
I don't think the casting crew and the budget could accommodate Nick Cage. I think Nick Cage probably would have wanted to have been interviewed inside the inside the burial pyramid that he has in a New Orleans cemetery. You don't know about this, do you?
No, I don't know about this.
He specifically has for himself a burial tomb in New Orleans, in a cemetery in New Orleans. That's a pyramid. It's meant for him, but it's very mysterious because it's like it's owned by him, but is it meant specifically for his body when he's dead, or what exactly is it? But it's his.
Has he paid it off already?
Yeah, I think so. I want to say he has. But he likes the city that much to where he wants a tomb for himself or for his family, you know. But what I'm getting at is I don't think the budget for The Death of Superman Lives What Happened could have paid for Nick Cage, you know.
Well, they did the initial Kickstarter, and then they did a second crowdfunder. So, like, I always assumed that second crowdfunder was, like, to afford that type of shit. Because if I remember correctly, before they did the second crowdfunding campaign, they had already interviewed Tim Burton, and that was, like, the big get.
Yeah, yeah. For me, actually, the big get, well, that seems like the big get. For me, the big get would have been John Peters.
True, very true. But
who comes off of as being very elusive and kind of weird, almost weirder than Nick Cage. The guy's he's like, I wanted a spider in the movie, you know.
I love John Peters' arrogance in this documentary, just because, like, he talks about this movie like it's fucking, you know, bread and butter.
Well, I mean, you know, he has to. He was the producer on it, you know.
Doesn't he mention Wild Wild West at a certain point? And
I think he does. Yes,
he acts kind of proud of it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got to put the spider in there somewhere. Like, why do you care about this fucking spider? Get off the spider.
Oh God, yeah. Which again, it all takes me back to that original Kevin Smith diatribe about all this and the spider and going to see Wild Wild West in the theater, and
Yeah.
which that's the one thing I will say that kind of bothered me about Kevin Smith's presence in the film, is that a lot of his contribution to this movie is just repeating what he already said in his evening with.
He really wasn't. He didn't do much in the movie. Yeah,
I can't blame him. I mean, he's told the story, and like that's. I have a feeling like most people that knew about this film prior to the documentary had heard of it from Kevin Smith's story.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't heard of it prior.
I would have liked some more details on the J.J. Abrams script, Superman Flyby, or the other different versions of the screenplay. They didn't really get. They went far enough into some drafts, but not all the drafts. And I guess for time constraints, they could only do so much. But I would have liked a little bit more. I'll give the movie this on its. As much as I love the movie, I love it that much more because of the bonus features. If you go to their website, they have on their page a way to get it digitally through VHX, which is how I got it. And you can get it at like a $20 level or a $30 level or something. And it comes with all these different bonus features like commentary tracks, deleted scenes, extended interviews, cast and crew commentary, you know, all this other stuff. And they really went all out to please the crowdfunders.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to check those out.
Yeah.
Well, I might buy this on DVD. Like, this is a really good documentary.
Yeah.
The only thing, Netflix seems to have a monopoly on documentaries. I have a feeling this is going to pop up on Netflix.
Well,
at some point.
you know what just came on Netflix? Lost Soul, the documentary about Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau project.
I've seen, I think that was in like recommended for you or something.
Yeah, I just put it in my queue. I'm gonna have to check it out like this weekend, and that looks great. Another movie I really want to see, I think they're finishing it up, is Doomed, the one about the Fantastic Four movie that never got released. That
would be interesting.
That'll be very fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's another documentary out there about some other movie, and
there's a documentary I heard about. I believe it's like a year old at this point. It's a documentary about Canon Films.
Oh, God, what is it called? I know what you're talking about. I get notifications from them on Facebook every once in a while. Okay. But there's another documentary coming out soon about the VHS Chuck Norris revolution in communist Russia. how a communist country in the USSR, this revolution sprung out of people bootlegging Chuck Norris films and being inspired by it. So
That's kind of amazing.
That's kind of amazing. Yeah, like Invasion USA or something. So, what else we got to talk about?
If we're done with Death of Superman Lives, I'll just wrap it up by saying, like, yes, if you're interested in Tim Burton, if you're interested in late 90s cinema, if you're interested in Superman, this satisfies all three of those. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
It's a really good documentary. I believe it's on. I forget how I got it. I paid for like whatever the $5 version, which was just.
You can go to their website, which is basically just the I think it's The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, but the first letter of each word. Like TSOL, something like that. And and you go there .com and you can select whatever VHX version of the movie you want, and you can watch it and stream it immediately. It's a very simple and easy process.
Oh yeah. Which that's how I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which was also crowdfunded. I like that these crowdfunded movies are doing that, where it's like, all right, it's done. Here you go. You can watch it immediately. Like just that instant access. That's great.
That's very cool. I like that. I sometimes feel a little shortchanged when a movie that's crowdfunded just goes right to film festivals. Mm-hmm. Then you have to wait for the theatrical. Then you got to wait months later. I don't know.
Well, yeah, if you contributed to the crowdfunding, I can completely understand why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But usually those things are like, it's whatever tier you donate. It'll be like, you get the DVD when it comes out, or you get this, you get that. We'll send you a digital download of it for free.
We'll send you a digital poster. I'm
poster.
Why would I want a digital poster?
Why can't I just Google your poster?
Right, like, why?
Ooh, do we want to go into Pixels?
Well, we're gonna do BoJack, or do you want to do BoJack even? We can just do Pixels.
Let's just get Pixels out of the way, because this is sort of the main event. We're like 20 minutes in here.
We're 20 minutes deep. We might as well get balls deep into this.
Yeah.
So, okay, going into Pixels.
Had you seen the short film?
Yes, I saw the short film actually when it was first released. I caught it through a Huffington Post article where it was like, "Hey, check out this short film; it's pretty fun." And then about maybe a month or so later, I read that Happy Madison bought the rights to do this into a feature film.
That's the thing, is I did not know Happy Madison was involved in this, because it's a Chris Columbus film. I just assumed it was a Sony picture, but lo and behold, I'm there. Fucking that Happy Madison logo comes on, and I was like, no.
Exactly. They bought the rights to the short film, and I thought, oh no, the short film doesn't have a narrative necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's mostly just things happening. It's mostly just destruction footage of these cute video games landing and messing up a city and wreaking havoc. It's chaos, and it's fun. It's fun chaos, and that's the building block of a potential movie right there. Is okay. Well, why are these things attacking? Who's going to save us? That kind of stuff. But you don't hand it to Adam Sandler. You know what I mean? Because he's not. No. They're just gonna. That for them, that it's a framework to do the same damn thing they've done over and over again, which is nothing.
True. With this movie specifically, I feel like they were trying to sort of make their own Ghostbusters. So that is something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
okay. So first and foremost, like, this movie did not need to be as bad as it was. Like, with a better writer,
with a better writing team, absolutely, this could have been
and a better cast.
Fun. And a better cast. This could have been
not even okay. So no. I'm going to strike that. Not even a better cast so much as just not Adam Sandler. I'll even give you Kevin James. Like, Kevin James isn't funny in this, but he's not detestable.
He's not detestable in this. No,
like he usually is.
Usually he's pretty bad. Although I still say King of Queens, the TV show, was okay.
It's okay. I don't hate like Kevin James has he has some inkling of talent that he chooses to never tap into, or rather, the material he's given never allows him to tap into it.
Okay, that's a better way of putting it, I think. Yeah. And in this movie, he plays the president, and it's kind of like, oh, Kevin James is the president. Okay, that's funny, But he doesn't do a horrible job. He's mostly just there to provide dialogue for Adam Sandler. That's about it.
So I asked Ken Ekman to give me a couple. I asked him to give me a couple questions to ask, just so he still has a presence, even though he couldn't be with us today. He still got a presence.
He hasn't seen the movie, by the way.
No, but his first question was, if Sandler and his crew were replaced by other actors, would the film have worked?
Yes.
And I will argue that if you replace Sandler, maybe. But the script is still bullshit. Like, there's no jokes in this script.
I say replace the creative team. Replace the actors, but mostly Sandler. But the creative team, minus the director. The director can stay. Chris Columbus is not a bad director.
Yeah, and this movie is not...
It's not poorly directed. It's just... It's poorly acted and poorly written. Mostly,
I'm willing to bet Adam Sandler did no second takes in this movie.
Could you imagine him on a David Fincher set? Fincher takes like fucking 50, 60, 70 takes, and Sandler would be like tearing his fucking eyes out or something,
Can you imagine if David Fincher directed a Happy Madison production and Adam Sandler was his boss, to where he's like, nope, that's the take you get. I'm done.
Now I gotta go home and do laundry for my one pair of cargo pants. By the way, what was up with that? His clothing in this movie. It was basically just loose-fitting clothing that a high schooler would wear. Like, what is up with Adam Sandler?
Unless that's just the clothes he would regularly wear, I think
that's
maybe
just the clothes he would regularly wear. I don't think this was a character thing at all.
No, okay. I was going to say maybe it has to do with his occupation, which is sort of a Best Buy Geek Squad.
Maybe the clothing. Maybe the clothing
at
first, but
those guys wear slacks.
Yeah, those guys wear like collar shirts and slacks. Sometimes a tie, not always, but sometimes. He's just dressed like he's normally dressed, except brightly colored. And that was really weird, And it's like, hi, I'm from the tech company. I'm here to hook up your TV.
What does he go to Michelle Monaghan's house to do?
He's there to hook up their game system and home entertainment setup and everything.
As if you can't do that on your own.
Well, this is a family. It's assumed that this family just moved into this house, or the mom. They just split up from the dad, and they don't. She doesn't have time for this. She clearly she doesn't, because she works in the military. She works with DARPA or something. Her character does, and so she wouldn't have time to do this. And her kid's too young to handle that kind of stuff. So, let's hire a company to come out and do it. It probably doesn't cost that much, and I make enough money anyway. So, that was plausible. Mm-hmm. What wasn't plausible was Adam Sandler's complete attitude.
Well, before you continue, the thing I didn't think was plausible is how old was the boy? Her son was 13, 14 years old? He should know how to hook up a game system.
Well, I thought he was 8 or 9.
What? No, he couldn't have been.
He wasn't that young? Maybe. I don't know.
I'm gonna maybe we'll split the difference. I don't think he was as young as 8, but now that I'm thinking about it, probably not as old as 13. I'll meet you in the middle and say 10, 11.
Okay, that's probably fair. But yeah, at that age, I was hooking up VCRs.
Exactly. So, I was taking apart VCRs at that age. If they had broke down and you got to fix them, I don't. Maybe it's just our generation. Maybe we're more adventurous kids, but.
Or maybe in this particular case, this parent and this kid didn't really want to do that. I think kids today still do the same stuff. They just, you got Xboxes and PlayStations, because those are like computers. You can take them apart and put in new memory and all that stuff. So,
the guy that wrote the script for this also wrote Grown Ups, but like 15 years ago, I think also co-wrote Happy Gilmore. I think.
Still, it's not a good choice for Happy Gilmore.
No.
Was a good movie, I say, a good comedy, but it stands mostly on the shoulders of, ironically, Adam Sandler in his performance. He was at a different time in his life. You know, he was in Saturday Night Live or just getting out of Saturday Night Live.
He was hungry.
He was hungry. He had energy. Now, I think everything's gotten to him, and he just doesn't have to do anything anymore. So but he still does things.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really weird. I described it. I wrote a review of this movie for Dig Baton Rouge, which will be showing up sometime this week, and I described him not as a black hole, but as a vampire. The difference being, a black hole doesn't need to suck in energy to sustain itself. A black hole just does that. A vampire needs blood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It needs to get life and suck it up to sustain itself. So maybe Adam Sandler needs to do these movies to feel like he's important. Maybe I don't know. He really doesn't have to do anything anymore. I would imagine he's pretty set. You know. So
I hesitate to say that it might be more sinister than that.
Is he doing this to hurt people?
No, not to hurt people. No, not to hurt people. Just to make money under the guise of entertainment.
Like he's not satisfied with the amount of money he already has.
I'm saying, well, no, actually, I don't know, because like rich people, at a certain point,
it's true. Yeah. Rich people like for their money to continue to make money, and they don't want that train to stop. You know, so it's certainly possible. You know, I would imagine if he has a family, I don't know. Does he have a family, like a wife and kids, or?
He's got to. He's got to be pushing 50 at this point.
Right. I want to say he has children. He seems like the kind of guy who would.
Do his children respect him?
I don't want to get into that territory. That's way too that's way too personal. We're already trashing the guy so much, but we're doing it on a professional level, like based on his track record. We're not attacking him at home, you know, necessarily. I mean, we are saying that maybe he's making money, too much money, and maybe he's an asshole because of that, but we're not saying he's a bad father.
I feel like the script, whoever the guy that wrote the script, his name is Tim Hierley. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the scenes in the trailer kind of work. Like the trailer does sort of actually sell this movie. Yeah. But then when you watch the movie, it doesn't give you anything. So I started thinking, like, did they just make a trailer? Did they just make something they could sell? Like, is that what this all was the whole time?
It's a movie that was made just to be sold.
That's what it feels like. Yeah,
it's like I think Red Letter Media, and we keep going back to Red Letter Media every time we do this, but they described it once as the fast food of movies. You know, like it's just quick, easy, and consumable. You know, you basically got 90 minutes in an air-conditioned room to stick your kids in front of a screen and eat popcorn, and they can shut up for a little bit of time, and you can relax. You know, so that's essentially what this is time to relax, I guess. But for people like us, I mean, we can't relax when we're watching this movie because it's not giving us anything.
We'll get to that. I took a series of notes, as I tend to do when I was watching this movie, and I want to go over some of the notes, and they are in chronological order, so this will sort of be a play-by-play of the film.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
The film opens in 1982. And they play the song Surrender by Cheap Trick. And this is, I'm not going to lie, this is a nitpick. But to me, I don't think Cheap Trick Surrender 1982. Like, that's a late 70s thing to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't Sandler always use the same soundtrack for his movies?
One of my notes is how many Adam Sandler movies have Working for the Weekend by Loverboy in them.
Right, he just loves those songs. Those songs are from his youth, and he wants to be reminded of them. I mean, he might as well be the director of these movies. You know, I think he's got that at least that much control of them.
I don't know about this movie because, again, quoting Red Letter Media, it seems like every scene he's in, it seems like he was just intent on getting back to his trailer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's all I cared about.
This
is an obligation.
This is very early on in the film, and maybe you might not know the answer to this question, but did Peter Dinklage play himself as a kid?
No.
Okay, that was a different actor.
It was totally a different actor. Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I just that
would have been kind of funny though, but that would have
could have been. That has the potential to be funny.
But that would have they would have to have done it very carefully because it could have come off as offensive. That's one thing they don't do. They don't make midget jokes in this movie.
No.
You know, which is surprising because it's an Adam Sandler film, and usually he pokes fun at shit like this.
Well, see, the thing, okay, this movie isn't racist. It's not prejudiced against, I guess, midgets. Not
or anything. Yeah.
Midget's not the proper word to use, but
okay, the
movie's sexist.
Yes.
It's sexist as shit. Like,
yes, but
whoa.
That's the lead. I mean, yeah, it is, but it compared to like Jack and Jill, you know what I mean? It's not the worst example of an ism. You know what I mean? Like Jack and Jill, that was like racist, homophobic, this, that, whatever. You know, you could go down the list of shit that it was. This movie, okay, sexist. That's still pretty bad, but it's not compared to the other movies. It's actually pretty lower.
That's very true. Yeah, like for him, it's not that sexist, but this is still like very sexist. There's the first scene he has. Okay, so Adam Sandler's character in this film, I guess we should sort of explain what the plot is. Adam Sandler and Kevin James were childhood best friends, and they were in 1982 obsessed with video games. And Adam Sandler is so good at video games that he gets invited to the video game championship competition
hosted by Dan Aykroyd.
Speaking of which, this is an aside, but Dan Aykroyd is in this film, and later on in the film, they pull out some Crystal Skull vodka. I just thought that was an interesting connection.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Well, you know, Dan Aykroyd is known for being all about aliens. You know, he believes in extraterrestrial life, and he even comes up with a mythology that couldn't possibly be real because we don't know anything about extraterrestrials. It's like he's just making shit up, you know? And because he wants to know something, but we can't know because we've never made contact.
This is the guy that came up with the idea of a haunted apartment building that was an antenna for supernatural activity, you know?
He's an interesting person to say the least, but he plays like the guy who's like emceeing the competition. And Sandler's character at a young age loses to Dinklage's character at a young age at the game of Donkey Kong. And that kind of, we cut from there to Sandler now, and Sandler now is a home theater person. Like he sets up home theaters, he does computer work, he basically works for Geek Squad essentially.
Yeah, it's like a fucking movie knockoff of Geek Squad, but it is Geek Squad.
Essentially, I would say it's a budget Geek Squad because based on his clothing, that company is not paying very well.
Very true.
Yeah.
The thing, and other people have pointed this out, and I can't stress enough, like, I'm going to be repeating what other critics have said, only because they're pointing out the facts. This movie, Adam Sandler's life is in the toilet because he lost a Donkey Kong competition as a child. If he had won that competition, his life would be so great, and that is actually what this movie is telling you.
That's how the visuals of the movie work, is in that regard. Like, we cut from him crying at the video game competition and being kind of consoled by his best friend, but it's not like his best friend is saying, "Don't worry, man, you're going to go on to do great." You know, he may have said that, but he was mostly just being a friend. We cut from that immediately to him in the present doing bullshit work, and it literally is telling us by that the virtue of that was life. That was the highest he's ever gone, was that video game competition. And that is so pathetic.
Yeah, it is. It's pathetic. That is the exact adjective that.
Like he couldn't have had some other. He could have gone to next year's competition.
No, but
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
aside from,
what was this? The Centennial? You
I'm
know what
sure.
I mean?
I mean, they still have competitions like that to this day.
Right? Couldn't he have continued to do that, or gave up video games and gone on to something more interesting? I don't know. If that was the high point of his life, that's very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also meet Josh Gad as a little boy at that competition. So that's
who's obsessed with a woman, female character from a video game, which comes back in the movie. But
right, again, and it ties into the sexism. But speaking on the sexism of this movie, so Geek Squad employee Adam Sandler goes to Michelle Moynihan's house to help her son hook this stuff up, and then when he has to leave, he needs her to sign this paper. And he goes in her bedroom, and she's in the closet crying.
Yeah.
So he enters the closet and sits down and tries to console her for about 4 minutes. And then after that's done, after the consoling, he decides, oh, I should kiss her. And
yeah.
But I'm saying, okay, so it's like movie logic, whatever. Even most movie logic would say that this is too soon to try to kiss a woman mourning her divorce.
Well, I don't think it was 4 minutes. I think there was a couple of edits in that particular scene where we cut from the closet to a base in Guam being attacked by these aliens, which tonally, from a tone standpoint, is completely deaf. You don't want to do that. You want to have these scenes be completely separate. You don't want to go from like, my husband left me to soldiers being attacked. Oh my God, it's just completely different, stuff. But anyways, while we're doing all that, they're in the closet, and it's assumed, I assumed anyways, that they were in there for like 20 minutes, maybe longer, talking very deeply about stuff, And
movie
normally,
time, like the runtime of the film, it's 2-3 minutes.
Right, it's 2-3 minutes, but we assume that the time is probably 20 minutes in movie logic. Right. And according to movie logic, speaking of that, usually at the end of a conversation like this between the schlubby guy and the really attractive woman, and they're having like a nice tender moment, usually at that time, for comedic purposes, the male guy will go in for a kiss and the female will shut it down. Will reject it, and that's supposed to be the funny part. This movie has like no real comedic timing when it comes to that.
It doesn't have any. Okay, yeah, like the comedy in this.
He goes in for the kiss, and there's no. I don't remember there being any musical cue. Like a nice tinkly. He's going in for the kiss, da, 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 and then she's like womp womp. There's none of that. It's just dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not funny. We need a little more to kind of. We need a little help to get involved in a movie sometimes, and it's nice to have those elements to do that. This movie doesn't do that, at least not in that scene.
No, and the fact that Adam Sandler is like pretty much, for the most part, lifeless throughout this whole movie.
He's lifeless, but he's also the only times he ever puts in effort, and this is something I would like to get into a little bit, is his character is such an asshole. I mean, he is so sarcastic. He is so belittling. I mean, he thinks he's above everyone else on the planet, Like he comes into this woman's house. He's like, hey, you little twerp. He doesn't call him a twerp, but he's talking to him as if he thinks he's a twerp.
Right.
He talks to the woman, hey, you're a snob. You're a snob because you won't make out with me.
And that's a running joke in the film.
That she's a snob.
Yeah.
Or he busts in on a White House meeting like, everyone in this room sucks.
I will say, like, okay, so in terms of actual jokes in the film, after he gets shut down for trying to kiss her, they both leave the house, and he thinks she's following him. She thinks that he's following her. They both end up at the White House. And
we should mention his best friend from earlier in the movie, Kevin James, is now the president of the United States. Yes. So basically, Adam Sandler has carte blanche to walk in and out of the White House because he's best friends with the president.
It reminds me, have you ever seen That's My Bush?
Yeah, I love that show.
He's like Larry, the neighbor.
Hey, George, what's going on? There's
Yes.
a little snoo on your porch. What's snoo? I don't know, George. What's snoo with you?
That's My Bush is amazing. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But yeah, so like there is a joke buried within this, which is that they both go to the White House. Michelle Monaghan has no idea that he's friends with the president, and they get inside the White House, and one of the president's bodyguards says, like, the president is ready to see you, Adam Sandler. And then he's just like, like he makes fun of the girl, and he says, I think his line is actually like, I'm more important than you.
Yeah, he says, I'm more important than you.
And then he moonwalks because 80s.
Because 80s, right. Yeah. He moonwalks. But, oh, God.
There's a nugget of a joke in there, but the way they execute it, it's not funny at all.
The way it's cut together and the way it's performed, it's suggesting not that Adam Sandler is a schlubby guy who got one over on the snobby woman. Yeah. It's suggesting that Adam Sandler hates the world, his character hates the world, and he's cocky about it, and so he's going to moonwalk all over your face.
Yes.
That's kind of how it came off to me, and I can't relate to a character like that because that is just so awful. One of the few movies where I could kind of relate to a character who thought everyone was below him and everything was There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis
who's a sociopath.
Who's a sociopath and everything, but you see, because the performance was so rich and because the performance was so richly captured, we kind of engage with him a little bit and see a little bit of ourselves in him.
Right.
Here we just think Adam Sandler's character is a jerk.
Well, hell, actually, I was just watching American Psycho this morning, and like you can do a sociopath that has personality. You can do this. I don't know if these filmmakers know, but you can do this.
But I would like to point out why was Adam Sandler's character a sociopath? Why did he have to be one? Couldn't he have just been a likable guy?
I don't think we're supposed to think he's a sociopath. We're supposed to think he's just this regular, everyday guy.
But the movie doesn't know how to get that across. So it comes off. It comes off like the wires got mixed up. You know what I mean? The blue wire is attached to the green wire, and what is supposed to come out of the movie as nice and likable is coming to us as being jerkish, and that's not good.
There's this is sort of a pinnacle of my thoughts on this movie.
Yeah.
There's a line in the first season of BoJack Horseman. There's a line where BoJack is about to go on stage, and he says to like the PA, he's like, "I'm gonna go jerk this limp dick script until it comes." This movie needed a lead with that mentality because it ain't Adam Sandler.
You mean that real life mentality, or that?
Yeah, because this is a limp dick script. Like that. That's how I thought of that quote. Is I was like, this is a limp dick fucking script. Like, there's nothing here.
The funny thing is, and this is what I wrote in my review, the movie does have that actor in this movie, but he's in a supporting role, and that's Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage really does. I felt personally, I felt that he committed to that performance.
I agree. I think, and that's the thing. It's like Josh Gad and Peter Dinklage both. I like both of them as actors. They're given nothing to work with.
They're given really nothing to work with. But Dinklage, whatever, and
more so than Josh Gad.
More so than Josh Gad, it really throws himself into the role. For better or for worse, he's providing energy. He's actually giving us something, And Sandler, on the other hand, is just, he doesn't want to be there. He hates everybody. Life sucks.
Really, I mean, for the majority, and I already said this, but for the majority of the film, you just get the impression that he wanted to get off the set and go be by himself somewhere.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he, in most recent films and this one, doesn't he always have his hands in his pocket?
I never noticed. Maybe
he kind of always gives off the body language that he does want to be by himself. You know what I mean? Like that's usually what you do when you want to get away. Is you put your hands in your pocket. You want to kind of crumple up and
look down at the ground a lot.
Look down at the ground a lot. Shuffle your feet. You'll want to be by yourself. I know what that's like. But when it comes to playing a character in a movie, you unless that's the character, you don't want to do that for real.
Now, you mentioned, like his past few movies. He does do that in The Cobbler.
Yes.
And it's funny because the combination of this movie, Pixels, and The Cobbler, Adam Sandler might be in two of the worst movies of the year so far. The Cobbler's a lot more entertaining, mind you.
Because it's just batshit crazy, right?
It's so batshit crazy. But he's still slightly lifeless in that movie, too. He's supposed to be sort of a beaten down, depressed guy, so it makes more sense for him to act that way in that film.
Well, even on the poster for The Cobbler, he's just standing there holding a cup of coffee like,
this is a Thomas McCarthy movie.
Which makes no sense also. Why would he be doing this movie, you know? The Cobbler. He's actually an accomplished filmmaker.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I love The Cobbler in a way. I kind of love it. I don't know why. It is just a fucking train wreck of bad ideas. But anyway, getting back to the plot of Pixels. So,
oh boy,
we find out Michelle Moynihan works at the White House. Kevin James is the president.
Well, she works at DARPA, but we really wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she works like in the science department of something. But
and that becomes more and more vague as the film goes on. But
or maybe they just didn't care. But anyways,
so where was the first attack? Was in Guam, right?
At a base in Guam, which also made no sense because in an alien invasion movie, normally they attack the big cities. That's typically the movie, the Hollywood logic is you go after the big cities or you do some kind of event that gets attention. You know, instead they just attack a base in Guam.
So the U.S. government gets wind of what happened in Guam, and they're rewatching the footage of it, and pretty sure it's Adam Sandler is like, that's Galaga, the game, which actually Galaga is a sequel. The one thing, I don't know if this is a nitpick or not, and you can back me up on this.
Okay.
I don't know how much the screenwriter got paid to make this script. Go to Wikipedia and look up when these games came out, because there are so many games that they reference that came out after '82 that it doesn't make. There's a fucking Duck Hunt cameo in this film. I don't think Duck Hunt was ever an arcade game, let alone post 1982.
You know, at first, my first response to this would be, it's just supposed to be video game characters in general. Mm-hmm. But according to the movie, it was all based off of a NASA probe from '82.
Yes. About
the video game competition. So it wouldn't involve video game characters from from later on.
I am I'm resentful of the guy that wrote this script because there's so like it's like Wreck-It Ralph. If Wreck-It Ralph had like a shit ton of inaccuracies about the video games, people would flip because who are you making this for? Video game fans. They're gonna know this shit.
Right. That's what it's supposed to be. Be for and. Not to make things worse for your opinion on the writer, but there's a gag, not a gag, but there's a plot point where it turns out Peter Dinklage's character used cheat codes back in the day to win the competition and used them again now in the present to beat the video game characters in war. We'll get into why they fight, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But the fact is, there were no cheat codes for Pac-Man. There were no known cheat codes for any of these arcade games because they came out too early for that stuff to have come out. You know,
specifically Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is the one that he cheated at and beat Adam Sandler in the competition with. There are no cheat codes for any version of Donkey Kong that I know of. But I don't know what makes me more mad, that or the fact that he uses cheat codes in real life in a car.
Which also, now I kind of forgave the movie for that because there was a bit when the video game character of Pac-Man eats the light crystal thing and
power pellet.
power pellet and is able to eat the cars.
Yes.
Like, oh no, he's going to turn on us. And the cars suddenly turned a little pixelated. So I thought, okay, maybe somehow the alien technology is being infused and maybe there's some weird. The movie never gets into that, but
no, this isn't.
I was willing to forgive that. That was still stupid, but I was willing to forgive it.
You know what? It would make sense to use cheat codes is like if this was Tron and they went into some other reality. Yeah, fucking go nuts. We're in the real world. He's in a car.
Yeah. You know, the Michelle Monaghan's like, wait, she's looking on like a computer screen. He jumps, his car goes from here to here in no time. And she's like, how did you do that? That makes no sense. And he's like, because I'm the best, baby. I was like,
speaking of which,
that's a perfect excuse, right?
Speaking of which, when the creator of Pac-Man comes in, Peter Dinklage walks up to him and says, "I made your game, my bitch." That got the biggest laugh in the movie.
Yeah, okay. That may have been the high point of the film because
that wasn't funny, but it got the biggest laugh.
It wasn't funny, but it was also delivered with such sincerity. You know what I mean? Dinklage kind of came off like he meant that. Yeah, so it's just me, huh? Wow. Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, I just had to do something. What were you saying?
I was just saying Dinklage kind of delivered that line with such absurd sincerity that
he does that with all of his lines.
He does that with all of his lines, but he was
when he's
like,
not trying to.
He looks right at the guy. I made your game a bitch, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, that was, I could see that being funny. I didn't laugh at that, but I could see people finding that funny, and that wasn't really an issue for me that particular moment, because I could have believed that in a movie written by better people.
I forget why. Oh, no. Okay, so after that, like Kevin James addresses the Senate or the United Nations, somebody. He tells the world that we're being attacked by video games, and
I don't think he ever tells the world that. I think he tells a table of people.
Right, and it's an unspecified table of people. We don't know who
like
these
military person, generic military personnel. Like
Brian Cox. Brian Cox was in this movie.
Like, let's attack Iran. Let's attack this place. Let's attack Galaga. You know, he's just that rambling guy.
What does anything happen in between that and Josh Gad's appearance, his first appearance in the film?
No, because Sandler is escorted out of the White House, and then he meets Josh Gad.
Yeah. Okay, so Josh Gad comes into this movie, and Josh Gad, this is literally the note that I wrote in my notes. Josh Gad yells and slaps butts.
Yes.
That's what he does in this movie. He yells and he slaps butts.
He screams, he slaps men's butts, and that's really it. I mean, he doesn't really do a hell of a lot else. You know, he says in the Half in the Bag Red Letter Media episode, which reviewed this movie, there's a quote from him in a behind-the-scenes footage where he says, "My character's eccentric."
Right, yes.
And I was like, well, yeah, I guess, but that doesn't make it good. You know, I slap men's asses. He
probably knows this isn't good. Like, this is... I don't know. That's it. I question the sense of humor of everyone involved in this, but especially the writer.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing funny in this script at all. Like, it is astounding how much this multi-million-dollar comedy has nothing funny in it.
It's really pretty lifeless. I would like to ask you real quick, who would you, if you were put in charge of this project, if you were at not Happy Madison, if you were at, let's say you weren't at a studio. Let's say you were the PR guy for the short film and you were shopping it around to different studios. What creative team of writers, team of filmmakers, whatever, would you get to produce this film? Would you get like... I
already know the answer to this.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller? Would you get...
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Paul Feig?
Paul Feig's
Judd
not
Apatow,
bad, but Lord and Miller could nail the shit out of this. Like, they are what this movie needed. really. That and a better lead, but
Yes.
that's the only thing is I think with a better cast and with some actual jokes, this could have been a fun Ghostbusters type of movie that made these references to old video games, and like there really could this didn't have to be what it was.
No, not at all. That's the real
It's such wasted
disappointment of the whole thing.
And okay, so Ken's second question was,
Okay.
how were the visuals? How were the pixel visuals? Is the film worth watching for those? And the answer is no. The film is not worth watching for the pixel visuals. Watch the short film. But as far as he was asking about if we switched out the cast, could it have been a better film? Essentially, if you had somebody else write the fucking thing and put some real jokes in there.
Potentially, yes. It could have been. The visual effects, no, they're not worth it alone.
They
to
are
go
good.
see the movie, because they're very good, but they're not worth it alone. Mostly because they're only really used well once, and that was the final battle thing. Because you actually get to see him attack a city, and that was kind of fun. You know, the rest of the time it's Q*bert taking a piss because he's scared.
Well,
and,
we'll get to Q*bert. We'll get to Q*bert.
And little stupid gags, like they're out in the field where there's nothing around, and that's where they're doing the effects. That's not interesting.
Personally, I admired the visuals of the Pac-Man stuff.
That was really fun. Yes, that
was probably the best sequence in the film.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I liked it when Frogger came out myself. I thought, like, okay, that's kind of cool, Frogger.
See, the thing that bothered me about this, and again, other people pointed this out. Have you seen Wreck-It Ralph?
No.
Okay, well, when Wreck-It Ralph uses a cameo, it's not copy and pasted all over the rest of the film. Like, it is a cameo. Frogger, how many times did Frogger pop up after his first appearance? He was all over the place. Like, they just went willy-nilly fucking copy and pasting all this animation all over the place. Like, they didn't give a fuck if a video game cameo was clever or not. They just threw it in there.
Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of like, okay, I don't remember if Frogger was in the original short film Pixels.
He
but
could be.
It's possible. I don't particularly remember. But what I do remember was the video game characters they used the ones that were popular enough for people to remember, like Tetris and stuff. But they didn't go apeshit crazy. Happy Madison, once they bought this, they were like, no, we gotta stick in the Paperboy Kid.
I could be wrong. I think Tetris came out in '83, and again, never an arcade game.
Yeah, again, yeah, but you gotta have Tetris in there somewhere. I mean,
Tetris was in the original short
because it was in the original short, and because Tetris attacking buildings is actually a cool visual.
It was, but again, that was lifted right from the short.
That was lifted right from the short, and they kind of were just like, whatever, let's just put that in there.
I mean, it is a good joke, but the person that gets credit for that joke is the person that made the short. It's their joke, you know?
Sure.
Why a Smurf? Why the fuck was there Smurfs in this?
Yeah, I don't remember there being an arcade Smurf game.
There was an Atari Smurfs game.
Okay.
But
But not a
probably
pixelated
post
arcade
'82.
game. Probably post '82. Yeah, I don't. That didn't make the joke itself. Don't tell people I killed a Smurf. I was like, okay,
that's the joke.
That was what Michelle said, and I was like, that could have worked if the logic of the movie wasn't against you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. So many eye-rolling moments.
Yeah.
You know, this movie certainly wasn't worse than Human Centipede 3, but it's equally as bad.
Is it? Wow.
I feel I decided when I rated this movie, although I think actually I rated it a half-star higher in my review by mistake, because I gave Human Centipede 3 half a star out of 5, and because I was like, it's still technically a movie, so you know.
Here's the deal. There's a Futurama episode, and a lot of people have pointed this out. I don't think I'm some fucking trendsetter.
No, you're not. It's even on the Wikipedia page for Pixels.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that Futurama
had
what
much
is it,
more
like-
clever.
It's less than 10 minutes. It's part of an anthology of 3 cartoons.
And it completely knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, it's astounding how better that is at its length than this.
And they even use kind of an 80s type, 70s, 80s type soundtrack bit with
They do the Rush.
with
It's
the
like
Rush
I got my
song.
Rush.
Tom Sawyer. Yeah. So they kicked butt with that. That could have been like Sandler's team should have gone, let's do that, but in feature film form.
Speaking of the 80s,
Yeah.
the references to the 80s. The aliens in this film use old TV footage from the 80s to speak to the Earth.
I think it's implied that they used television signals that were sent from then, and then
Which is another thing that happened on Futurama. Fucking single white lawyer or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Single white lawyer.
Yeah.
Single female
Another
lawyer.
thing. Yeah.
Single female lawyer, yeah.
Is another Futurama thing. But, okay, so, like, the 80s stuff wasn't bothering me so much until Max Headroom showed up.
That really shocked me. I thought, like, okay, he's not an arcade game character. He's a TV show character. And why is he here?
They couldn't even get Matt Frewer to come in and redo Max Headroom.
Right.
Like, what is that dude doing? You could have paid him to come in and do that. But I kind of like Max Headroom. Like, I think Max Headroom is really fucking creative. So, like, that kind of offends me, you know?
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah. Yeah, that cameo appearance kind of just left me dumbfounded.
Oh my God.
I was like, at this point, the movie's off the rails. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing. You know?
And it's... Okay, so prior to the Max Headroom appearance, all of these messages are showing up in video form. Max Headroom is like a projection in the sky that speaks down at them, and he's like this big... It's fucking ridiculous.
It makes no sense given what the movie has been telling us about its own world.
Also, Max Headroom, post-82.
Yes.
Completely.
So the aliens would have no way of... And even if they did know about it, it still wouldn't make sense with regards to the arcade stuff, because it wasn't really like an arcade game type thing.
Yeah.
I don't think. So even then, I had a problem with the stuff where it was like, we're going to use clips of Madonna. We're going to use clips of Ronald Reagan to
Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island. That was an Adam Sandler.
Who knows what Fantasy Island is anymore?
I can guarantee you, Adam Sandler wrote that joke.
Right.
I think I think he even voiced the little guy. The plane. I think he voiced that guy.
I can't remember his name, but yeah. Let's just call him Torgo.
No, he wasn't Torgo.
I know he wasn't Torgo, but we could just call him Torgo.
Velichez? I don't know. I can't think of the name. It'll come to me eventually.
I'm going to burn through the rest of Ken's questions here.
Okay.
Were there any of Sandler's patented trademark cameos? If so, who? We already mentioned Dan Aykroyd. And
is he a patented cameo, though? Dan Aykroyd?
They're friends. He was in Chuck and Larry, so I'm going to just sort of...
Okay, I guess
yes and no. I mean, it's debatable, but as far as him being in Chuck and Larry, you can... And the fact that Sandler...
Yeah, I think Ken is thinking Steve Buscemi. You know,
he's thinking of Nick Swartzen.
Nick Swartzen is the only one who is in the movie. Yeah, he's like a New York cop in one shot. Just one shot, he's in there.
And he's gone. That's it. It wasn't even a good cameo.
He just showed up on green screen and was like, yeah, this video game character came out of nowhere.
Usually if Nick Swartzen cameos in an Adam Sandler film, he's playing like a really over-the-top character. Like in Chuck and Larry, he was a really flamboyant gay guy. In Grown Ups 2, he was like a mentally challenged bus driver. Yeah. In this, he's just a cop, and he delivers some lines, and then he's gone. And it was like, what the hell was the point of that?
Yeah, I don't know. They really could have had like a famous football player in that role. You know what I mean? Going, oh, look, it's Tom Brady. You know, like
bring Shaq back. He loves using Shaq and stuff.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, like that would have been like oh, it's Shaq as a cop. That's kind of funny. You know, like, yeah, it's not that funny, but it's funny enough for what it's supposed to be. Instead, it's just, oh, it's Nick Swartzen.
So Ken's next question. This is one I'm going to need your help on because I didn't notice it so much.
Okay.
How bad was the product placement? I don't remember too much of it. Those cars, the ghost cars, they never are those Mini Coupes?
I don't remember. I'm not even really that much of a car guy. I will tell you, however, apparently the government only uses Sony Vaio computers. That's all over the movie. That's
any Sony film.
Sony PlayStation, Sony this, Sony that. You know, it's all over the place. I don't remember if there was a particular beer or a particular like soda or anything of that nature, but I'm sure they're there. It wasn't as obnoxious though, because it's not coming to mind immediately.
I think Jack and Jill, or at least the backlash of Jack and Jill, taught him at least to be smarter about that, because like Jack and Jill was like, that's the epitome of just whorish product placement.
Yes. That might as well be in the dictionary as a as a new word or something. You know, look up Jack and Jill in the dictionary. To be a whore.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
What video games were made fun of besides Pac-Man, Centipede, and Donkey Kong? I've already mentioned Duck Hunt, which has no place in this movie whatsoever.
Duck Hunt, Paperboy, Frogger, Tetris,
Joust. And Q*bert. I was trying to hold off on talking about Q*bert.
Q*bert is prominently made fun of. Prominently.
And the thing is, they made a Q*bert joke in Wreck-It Ralph, but the Q*bert joke in Wreck-It Ralph stayed true to the fact that Q*bert speaks in gibberish. And when he talks, like a talk bubble comes up and puts all the expletives in there. And like back in the day, people would joke, like when you die at Q*bert, he cusses, because it would be like exclamation point @ symbol hashtag, you know, like it would look like a curse word. In this movie, Q*bert's voiced by an obnoxious, high-pitched voice person who speaks to them. That's the Q*bert can understand English and can speak back to you in English.
The first thing he says is he's watching a violent modern video game, like a Metal Gear Solid or something.
Yeah.
and the first thing he says is, "So much blood."
Before that happens, before Q*bert has any lines, Josh Gad like brings him over covered in a blanket with a huge crowd of people, and then lifts the blanket up to show Adam Sandler. I'm like, how did no one in that crowd see what was under that blanket? Like,
yeah, that was a little confusing. So Adam Sandler tries to play with Q*bert a little bit. He throws him some cheese balls here and there, you know, and it's like, okay, they're being cute, I guess. Mm-hmm. And but then they go right back to almost. I don't know much about Q*bert, but they really hate on Q*bert in this movie.
So I'll explain Q*bert to you real quick.
Go ahead.
Have you ever seen the setup with all the blocks, and it's like one block and then down, 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 down? The idea of Q*bert is just to change all the blocks to the same color. That's it. That's all you do. And not jump off of the platform.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not a complicated game. Q*bert, there's a reason nobody uses Q*bert anymore. Like, he wasn't a great character. He's not Pac-Man. And, I mean, I like Q*bert, and I liked him in this movie, oddly enough. Like, that's the thing, is like, with a better script and with a better cast, he would have made a great little sidekick.
I guess. I mean, I don't know who would have made a better sidekick, arcade game wise.
I think the problem here is that you have that problem of we can't go past 82, even though they go past 82 all the time. Yeah, Pac-Man would have been the best choice.
Okay, well, let's say you could go past 82, but maybe not beyond 88. Who would you have gotten in? Like, you're given a little bit more leeway.
I would say the go-to is Mario, but Mario, you would have to give him this racist Italian accent, and that's just going to add.
That would have been voiced by Adam Sandler, by the way.
Let me think about that, actually, because outside of Pac-Man and Mario, I got nothing. I can't really think of anyone.
Okay. What about the little mushroom guy from Mario?
Toad. Toad, that would have been cool. That would have been fine. I wouldn't have had a problem with them putting Toad in there.
Yeah.
But the thing about Toad, though, is that Toad is notorious for almost every incarnation having a very obnoxious voice.
Okay.
They would have either have had to stay true to that or break from the norm and just give Toad sort of a normal, non-obnoxious voice.
Yeah. But I felt sorry for Hubert in this movie, you know? He has to watch bloody video games. He gets hurt a couple times. Mm-hmm. He pisses himself, and he has sex with Josh Gad.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to
okay.
that.
Okay. I think it was him, just a different gender.
We named most of the games. I'm trying to clear up Ken's question here, which is what video games. I'm thinking, did they ever make a Pong reference?
I don't think so.
Opportunity wasted.
Yes.
Seriously, that was like the first video game. But, okay, so this is important. So Josh Gad is obsessed with this female video game character named Lady Lisa.
Made for the movie, by the way. It's not an existing character.
Played by one of the girls from Spring Breakers.
Ashley Benson, yes. Yeah. Which also makes no sense given the movie's logic, because it should have remained a pixelated character. Instead, for no reason, the pixelated version of Lady Lisa or Laura or whatever.
Yeah, she becomes a real live action person.
It becomes Ashley Benson, and she starts attacking Josh Gad. You know, and it's like, why couldn't the other characters turn to human? You know what?
They're so like, and as soon as she shows up, she pulls out two swords, and he still decides to confess his love for her. And they sort of fight for a little bit. And then he just stops and confesses his love to her again. And she gives in, and she's like, this is, you know, which I assumed these were all like robots being controlled by the aliens. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, yeah. No.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. However, okay, so the girl goes on Josh Gad's side. You know, they're cool. They're good. Once Adam Sandler and company save the day, which they do by playing Donkey Kong, I feel like the fact that they put Donkey Kong in the trailer, they shouldn't have done that, because like that, as weak as the finale is, it would have been more of a surprise to not know that Donkey Kong was coming, you know?
Sure.
So they save the day, and then the girl de-reses, and you know, she's gone. She's left. And Josh Gad is really sad about this. And Michelle Moynihan, before Michelle Moynihan, Josh Gad makes a comment where he's like, why is Cubert still here? Why does Cubert get to stay? And Michelle Moynihan says, oh, he's a trophy. I guess we get to keep the trophies. And then Cubert turns into Lady Lisa. And I wrote this down in my notes. A woman referred to as a trophy you get to keep.
Yes, exactly. And we could even go further and say what's the word for, I guess, transsexual, right? Is Cubert a man? I don't know.
Cubert, as far as I know, I've always heard him referred to as he. Okay,
so let's suggest for a moment that Cubert turning into Lady Lisa or Lady Laura is a gender swap, which it is apparently. But so it's not just against women; it's also maybe against LGBTQ, possibly.
LGBTQ.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Yeah,
that was a video game reference.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, well, maybe it's not against that. I don't know, but anyways, there's a post-credits stinger where Josh Gad's like, "Honey, the kids are up" or something, and they look in the baby's crib, and it's a bunch of baby Cuberts, which implies very heavily that Lady Lisa or Lady Laura is not completely Lady Laura. You know what I mean?
Part of her is still Cubert.
Part of her is still Cubert, like the inside parts. So she's a lady on the outside.
Inside.
that kind of crap, and it's really like disturbing, like that they would go that far.
Ken's last question was who dies.
No,
I
no
don't.
one really.
Nobody. Yeah, because in fact,
I think one soldier dies.
No. But he's at the end. Remember when
no,
Donkey Kong?
not that soldier. There was another one.
Another one. Okay.
During the centipede battle.
Mm-hmm.
One soldier gets hit by some pixels and blows up or something.
Yeah.
That was the only one I remember. So
the Kubert joke. The fact that it's not funny aside, like
yeah, it's not funny.
It just gets into like the logic. That's this movie's problem is its logic.
It's logic and how mean spirited it can be at times.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
So last of my notes. They kind of sort of redeem using Surrender by Cheap Trick in that it closes out the movie. And that works infinitely better than it does opening the movie. I feel like for them to use that song in the beginning, it just threw me off where I'm like, this is a 70s song. What? This doesn't set the tone for 82. Like, if you wanted to set the tone for 82, there's a million other things.
Hello. I don't know if I'm frozen or if Bill Leon is frozen. So, yeah. Uh, I guess I'm the host now. I don't know. I feel like the guy in Major League 2 when the announcer guy gets too drunk and passes out, and now the secondary announcer has to take over, but he completely sucks at the job. He doesn't know what to do. Fly ball caught. So give us a second, folks. Well, folks, it looks like our podcast for this evening, our Pubcast, has experienced some major technical difficulties. If this is still reaching people right now, know that we are trying to work it out, but this might be the end of the show for this evening. To sum up, Pixels sucked. So if I don't come back, or Bill Leon doesn't come back, or we both don't come back, it's probably because something went wrong and we couldn't fix it for this evening. Sorry about that. We should be back next week. Thank you.